Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2018 show. I'm your host, Don Kay. We are live from McGilvery Speedway, 30th and High School and Speedway. Tonight's show is presented by Honda and Honda HPD, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the Verizon IndyCar Series, and SVRA. I'm sure that most of you by now have heard that Mary Hulman George has passed away early Saturday morning. The visitation is scheduled for tomorrow in Terre Haute, and the funeral service will be in Terre Haute as well on Thursday. She was quite an interesting lady. Strangely enough, about 15 years ago or so, I had her on the program. She actually came in and did it, and then she had a couple of get-togethers at her house on the Speedway grounds over by the old motel, and I got invited to those. So it was I knew the lady, I didn't know her well, obviously, but she invited us to go watch when her horses raced out at, can't remember if it was at Hoosier Park or Shelbyville, one or the other. But we never were able to make it on the times they were there. Also want to mention a gentleman on his way to Florida, the Fink. Kenny Smith's birthday was yesterday, but said they're on the road heading to Florida. If he's listening in, happy birthday. If you have a computer problem, which I seem to have quite frequently, you need to call Jack at Computer Overdrive. You can call him, tell him your problem, make an appointment. The number is 317-328-0766. And if you want to find out about drones, go in the back half and see Mark. Your favorite doctor's appointment, a dentist. Well, I have one that I will recommend, and you will go there and you'll like it. It's the Indy Dental Group. Dr. Jack Miller and Dr. Liz Lewis have a phenomenal practice. You need to see a dentist. They're the ones to see. Trust me. Make an appointment. Number 317-846-6125. For those of you who are fans of the Rockin' Horse Rock Band, they will be here Saturday night from 9 until 1. They're one of the top bands in the city or in the Midwest area, Central Indiana area, so you want to get out here. They'll be here 9 to 1. And if you're an NFL fan, McGilvery's has NFL All Access. You can come and see your team play right here, McGilvery's, on Sundays. Also want to mention on November 17th, 5:30, the speaker series will commence at the Grant King shop. The guests will be Gary Irvin and Vern Trester. I heard them together a couple weeks ago, and they are funny. You want to see them, and they'll have hot dogs and brats. And prior to the PRI show on the 7th of December from 4 to 8, the Vintage Indy Registry and Harding Insurance will be gathering at the Grant King Race Shops at 8155 Crawfordsville Road, the old Grant King shop, and there'll be some good food and some good chatter and some good nonsense. So you want to stop in there. And they have also got the Grant King videos on YouTube. So go to YouTube and look it up. And all you have to do is punch subscribe, and when they change it, you'll be able to see them. He's got 50 hours, so you'll be able to see a lot of things. And started on yesterday, the newest Hoosier Thunder. The short tack open wheel cars are on display at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum. And you want to know what's going on and what my first guest has been up to? You need to subscribe to Trackside Online. Go to tracksideonline.com and subscribe to it. You get all the information, everything that's going on in IndyCar and the Road to Indy program. And my first guest, gentleman, it's not easy to get a hold of. He does have a few other things on his plate from time to time, daily. And to do an interview, he can usually do one at this time of night at home with his feet on the ottoman, a cocktail next to him, but he's got to come here, and he's done it. He's the president and CEO of Hulman and Company, which includes, among others, Clabber Girl, some other investments, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, IndyCar Series, and IMS Productions. I'm pleased to have him here. Please welcome Mr. Mark Miles. How did you happen to not have anything to do tonight? How did I get that?
Well, we got IU basketball, Purdue basketball. Yes. We got Duke and whoever, and
Kentucky.
We got an election.
Yes.
So I'm amazed that so many people are here tonight.
See this? I voted.
I voted last Sunday, actually.
Oh, sure.
I did.
How are things going with IndyCar in your favor? With, I think, George Michael Steinbrenner starting a team, 22-year-old, the youngest in the history of the sport, coming in. It's got to be a big help. name recognition for the series. Plus, there's some other teams that are looking to come in and some new drivers.
Yeah, we're we were grateful for this year, 2018, and couldn't be more excited about what we expect for next year. Lots of great things going on. We love the schedule. We've added COTA, Circuit of the Americas, which in Austin promises to be a great event. And of course, the finale's moved a little south in Northern Cal to Laguna Seca, which a lot of fans are really excited about. Got new teams coming in. Another Formula One driver has joined us from Sweden, and I think we're right on the cusp of signing a new title sponsor, and we're now selling our own media rights around the world. So there's lots and lots going on. I'll be in the next 2 weeks after this week in Australia to see if there's really an appetite to do a race there and get back to a fabulous tradition for IndyCar.
Surfer's Paradise. I've been there.
Surfer's Paradise. I don't know if it's going to work, but we're going to go find out, and then we'll be back, and then I think we'll probably be in Tokyo a week later, so no rest for the wicked, but we're really excited about next year.
You know, the thing that's interesting to me is when you came on board, joined the thing, a lot of people said, what does he know about racing? I said, what do you have to know? I mean, there are guys that come from widget manufacturers and take over an auto manufacturer, and they're successful because it's how to get the right people to do the job, and you've succeeded in that. You've got some really good people on your staff. I mean, how you stole Allison away is still amazing to me, but she is phenomenal. You got some great people, and I think that's what it takes.
It's where it starts, right? Whether it's in the paddock, the teams, or in our staff. Thank you very much. We're just blessed to have people who love what they do, who are really good at what they do. For the most part, I think we got the right people in the right seats, and it's starting to show up.
The new media world distribution, again, that's something you're familiar with because you took the WTA from
ATP. Come on.
ATP, same thing. Yeah. ATP, and grew it into a worldwide organization. So you've known how it's done, and you've done it. So I think that really bodes well for getting IndyCar into the rest of the world.
Yeah, so it was announced earlier this week. We should back up, right? We should start by saying how we should really just say a lot about Mary Hulman George, and huge loss. You can't say enough about what her father and she and her family has done for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and for IndyCar racing and really for motorsport broadly. So huge loss to not have her with us. And most of us will be in Terre Haute later this week for her services. And we probably should have started with that, Don, because it's a big deal. But
and incidentally, I might mention I had her on here one night about 15 years ago.
Yeah, I'm not
She said,
surprised.
I've never done an interview. I said, well, come on, you just talk to me. And she said, okay. And I walked in here at 5:45, and she was here.
It's
she was
your
quite
charm
good.
that got her
yeah.
here, I'm sure.
Oh, no question about it. I had my hair done and everything before I asked her. And I got invited to her house at the Speedway, and a couple of times she invited me to some gatherings they had. We weren't close friends or anything, and she invited us to go watch her horses run at, I forget, Shelbyville or Hoosier Park. And the nights that she was going to be there with Guy, we couldn't make it. But she was a nice lady and loved racing.
Huge heart, absolutely a racer. Nobody could be more passionate or committed, and she and her family continue to just reinvest and allow us to do what we're trying to do to grow it all. So I appreciate everybody letting us look at that and say a word about it. But going forward, there's just a lot of great things going on. I can't remember your question.
About taking over the world distribution of IndyCar.
Yeah, media. So what does this mean? For more than a decade, our program has sold our non-U.S., our outside the U.S. media rights. So think TV, although now it's digital as well as it's called linear, but regular television all over the world. And it was done through ESPN International. They bought the rights from us. In some countries, they put it on ESPN International Television. In other countries, they sold or sub-licensed the rights to other broadcasters. And they did a great job. They were hired to just get us broad coverage around the world. They did that. They grew it. The value of that was increasing. But we're at a place where the world's waking up again to IndyCar. And there's real appetite for more of us. And so we have done, I did this in another sport in 2000, actually between 95 and 2000, a long time ago. We want to have really close relationships like we do with U.S. broadcasters, with our key broadcasters all over the world. And so we need to develop those relationships directly. We have the benefit of having IMS Productions, which you mentioned, and they're already hired by ESPN to create the international signal that goes all over the world. So we've been doing that. We know how to do it. We got great technical people there. And so what was left was to figure out how to do the licensing country by country or region by region. That takes more people who know what they're doing. We've hired a woman who's been doing this for ESPN. She's in London. And we're just kind of organizing ourselves internally. So that it means a lot more international travel, but we want to know who the customer is, who the broadcaster is in all the key countries. We want to be calling them every week to say, if you're Canal Plus and you're in France, we want to be telling you about what the French guys are doing and where they are in our championship points race, and spoon feeding them the stories of IndyCar so they can do a better job of presenting us to their national followers. And I think that means future growth. So the idea is we're going to do all that ourselves, which is, I think I've got 4 million miles on Delta from the old days for me, which I consider not exactly a badge of honor. I think about it in terms of the nights away from family and all. But we're going to go do it again in order to really step up our game outside the U.S. And I know we can do it as an organization, and it won't make huge differences from 18 to 19, but over time it will mean that we really have the ability to work with the broadcasters and grow the sport.
Well, if nobody thinks that there are other countries that will pay attention, all they had to do was be here when Fernando Alonso was here, and the attention and the huge following that he got in Europe. Now, having said that, if you watch Formula One, and I sometimes don't get all of them, but
it's early in the morning for you.
Well, yeah, sometimes it is. 10 o'clock, good grief. When Hamilton won in England, or he won where? I forget where he won, but he got booed. And the Austrian won in England, and they booed him. The thing is, the countries follow their guys, their people. They're behind them. When Formula One first came here, I was furious, because I know how Ferrari funds their racing program. They'll sell flags. For Pete's sake, I couldn't see anything. They'd be waving a Ferrari flag. And they're really into it. And I think that it's possible with the various drivers coming in that IndyCar can, in fact, build a following out there.
No doubt about it. Even before Alonso, I think this is right. If you look at the field for the 500 this year, 18, there were like 13 different countries represented from the drivers in the race, and they're well known to their countrymen, and we just need to get them better promoted in those countries, and that's the starting point for the resurgence of our popularity around the globe. So and we love our racing. We think, I'm not going to be specific, but I think our racing takes a second seat to no form of motorsports anywhere. And we know motorsports fans, when they take another look, and if they have a national hero behind the wheel in addition, we're just going to grow. So it's a really exciting time for us.
The NBC contract that's been put together, and I'm going to have Steven Starks here. He's already promised me. I've got your phone number on my computer screen. The minute it's all done, I'll call you. That's okay. Are they going to be involved in your worldwide distribution? Will they provide, or is IMS Production, which provides most of the equipment anyway, are they going to do it?
So, again, we'll manage all this in-house, if you will, if you think about the range of our companies. So Steven's helping us lead that effort. He's a great guy. He's led the development of the schedule for we hired him into our legal department. After 2 years, moved him into IndyCar. He's the liaison with all the promoters for all the tracks. He's the developer of the schedule, which means help us find new races inside the country and out. And now he's got this additional responsibility to pull together all the production stuff and the licensing, the sales side of it. He's a great talent, and we're lucky to have him. And then we added, as I said, a person in London. So we've got IndyCar, a person in London, and we can cover the globe. We're happy, blessed to have IMS Productions already. Those people know how to produce the content, what goes on the air. We bought a satellite company this year.
Oh, really?
Absorbed by IMS Production. And they won't actually, these satellites aren't what you need globally, but they do understand distribution, getting the signal from one place to the next. So we have that expertise, and they'll manage that, and then we'll sell it ourselves.
If I'm not mistaken, according to Robbie Green, when I had him here the last time, that and he did a phenomenal job, but he came in when IMS Production was bleeding and sealed it rather quickly and expanded. And if I'm not mistaken, IMS Productions has people out in California because they do the telecast for the Lakers, among others. They're all over the place. I mean, they've got availability. So you have the equipment and everything, and from what I'm told, it's world class. There is almost nobody's got anything better than what IMS Production has. So you're not doing it the cheap way. You're doing it the right way. You're providing everything that it's needed. But the only one thing that, and I know nobody here will agree with me, I'm sure. The only thing, and I'm going to talk to Stephen about this.
He's teeing you all up for wherever this is going.
Yeah. When Phoenix left, I sent an email, I think one to you and to Jay. And Jay responded, and you responded. And Jay responded and said, "No fear, I'm an oval guy." So when COTA was announced, I said, "Where the hell's the oval in that place?" I never knew there was one. I said, somehow that didn't translate. Are you guys looking at, because I understand Richmond has an interest, whether that's true or not, but that place was really growing. Mark Janes and I used to sit on the backstretch just before turn 3, and we could see the crowd coming to us. And the last time we were there, I said, it keeps up like this, we're going to have to find somewhere else to go. And then gone. Are you looking, I mean, there's New Hampshire, there's Chicagoland, there's Kentucky. Are you guys looking at adding other ovals? There's only 5. Poor Ed Carpenter's only got 5 races next year. He can go on vacation a lot.
Poor Ed. Great guy. So we don't have a quota. We haven't said it must be X ovals and Y roads and Z street courses, but we think that balance is really important. We're not looking to add to the total number of races. That's an economic question. Every time that happens, we end up paying for more television production. We can spend $1 million to produce a race for television. I mean, that's a off-the-top expense around that order of magnitude. The teams have to spend more money, etc. Most of their agreements don't say each time you do a new race, a sponsor increases their funding by that amount. So we've got to carefully manage growth. For now, I think we'll have 17 races, all in the U.S. or North America, 1 in Canada, next year. As you know, we'd like to find 1 or 2 February international races that, frankly, we think can be more helpful to us economically than what U.S. events pay. And in February, there aren't very many U.S. places where we can race anyway. So if we have the 17 plus 1 or 2, for the next year or so, I think that's probably what we're looking at for the number of races. So in terms of ovals, if we add an oval in the States, it pretty much needs to replace an event. So we want to always know who's out there. We care about ovals. We care about great events that have big crowds and are really a great way to present our racing. And we'll always try to be balanced in the outcome in terms of the mix of formats for racing.
Well, I know that these, and I've been through this with my next guest on several occasions, and he said, well, look what happens at St. Petersburg sells out. It's March. They go there anyway. Well, Road America fills the place pretty much whatever they run. Mid-Ohio, they could run ponies backwards, and that place would do well. I mean, it's not anything odd. I think, to me, there has to be some kind of a workmanship between IndyCar and the promoter, because I don't people that I know that live in Phoenix area said, if you didn't tell us there was a race, we didn't know it. The same thing, to me, happens in Pocono. That place should be packed. Why isn't it? I got my ideas, and I've got some ideas of what might work. And you're going to get an email one of these days and say, you got to be kidding. Well, I'm not. I'm serious. But I think, overall, your overall view is that IndyCar is staged to jump, and I think the perfect time for that is now, because there's another so-called major series that is struggling. It's time, I think, for IndyCar to step forward, and I think you guys are heading in the right direction to do it. You're not sitting back saying, well, let's take a break halfway through the race. I mean, that to me is crazy, but I think the competition you got, I think the new car with the street and road courses race much better, much better. There was more racing, and of course these guys always say, well, we go to Mid-Ohio, we can't pass, we can't pass. Oh, really? There's guys that start 17th and finish 3rd, so they pass somebody somewhere, somehow. I think the racing is good, and it seems that maybe they've come up with the arrow that's needed for the ovals to make that better racing. So I think, you guys are marching forward, and nobody's sitting at home saying, well, I don't have to show up at the office today, because there's a lot of things to do, and they're doing it.
Yeah, there'll never be a day when we will think that it's all good, right? You're always looking to figure out how to improve. On ovals, I think you're right. I think the aero really met or exceeded expectations on streets and road courses. We can do better on ovals. And it's not just the aero, it's also tires here, for example.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a great test. I don't even know if this is supposed to be a secret, but Firestone was out recently to our oval, and they're working on the tires. That'll help. So I look for great oval racing, especially at the Speedway next year. Yeah,
there was a comment from the drivers that tested said that the tires were phenomenal. They used the tires they used the year before, and with the less downforce, they didn't have the grip. Now they've got a different compound, and they said that wasn't a problem anymore, so it should be good racing. And, in fact, with the oval having been resealed, it was still a little oily, and that didn't cause any trouble.
Yeah, I had dinner last night, which you all should have been with me, with just me and Alexander Rossi, which was a treat. What a smart, creative guy who loves IndyCar and is just desperate to share ideas and understand things and contribute. And he was in that test at IMS, and it was just after the sealing was done, and the way he put it to me was you couldn't tell, which is what you want, right? We've improved the durability of the track without in any negative way influencing the racing. So I think Firestone's doing a heck of a job, and they are making some changes that they can talk about later, or we will later. And I think it just bodes well for what we can expect in May and on ovals throughout the year.
Curious question, and I'm going to ask Stephen this, but I'll ask you since you're sitting here. Eddie Gossett said there's only going to be one race in Texas. This COTA thing doesn't fly. Well, I don't know if you realized it, but you did schedule a race down the road from him. Did you have to hit him over the head, or did you have to take him out for a couple of In-N-Out burgers, or how did you guys pull that one off? Because he wasn't happy from what I remember hearing him say.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to get into the details. I don't remember any In-N-Out burgers, but look, I think we're in a good place. Austin is a great market. It's young, it's vibrant, it's a growing place with great fans, and Bobby Epstein, who really runs that facility, chairs that effort, couldn't be more enthusiastic about having IndyCar there. He's wanted us there for a while, and we were happy that it worked out, and we'll be both at the Texas Motor Speedway in COTA. And I think that's just a great thing for fans. Frankly, there'll be fans from Mexico, there'll be fans from all over the South and Southwest, and we think that's just a great ad.
Are you going to run on the Formula One series circuit? Or, there is another circuit that could be used. Are they going to use the same one the Formula One runs?
Yeah, so we said we're good with that, but there are some conversations about whether there are ways to improve it. And improve it, in my mind, means if changes could be made that create another passing zone, that's a good thing. So it's not so much about not being identical to Formula One. It's really, and my guess is if there's a change that we use, maybe Formula One uses it the next year. So it's really not differentiating our racing to theirs so much as just doing everything possible to make great racing. And there are some ideas being kicked around in that regard.
And when you look at the builder, and I can't think of his name, but he used to own the Minnesota Vikings, I think, that built the track, and he built that thing in 7 months from start to finish. And that's a spectacular facility to have been done so quickly. But I guess if you got money to spend, you bring people in. It's spread out enough, so, and it's quite a facility. You've been down there. I know they tested there last week.
I was there this year for the Saturday, the qualifying of the Formula One race. Talked to our friends at McLaren and Mr. Alonso, and most importantly, maybe the promoter and the owner of the facility. And look, the facility's off the charts. It's beautiful,
fabulous.
But that's the track, and that's fundamental. It's really important. What's equally important is Bobby Epstein's aggressiveness in thinking about how to promote it and bring in fans and reintroduce us, or really introduce us in Austin in the best possible light. So he's aggressive and he's creative, and I think we're going to have a great show.
Well, I don't think I can recall recently when there hasn't been a good show. Some have been better than others, but they've all been quite good. Excuse me. And the talent that IndyCar has attracted is amazing to me. The only sad part is that some of the guys coming up from the United States Auto Club and so forth aren't able to make the jump, generally financially more than anything. Certainly there's some with talent enough that they don't get in there. But the Road to Indy program, I think, is really doing what you with the control of Indy Lights and the Anderson with the USF 2000 and the Pro Mazda are doing a great job in getting drivers to come up to the point. There's guys that should be up there, but there's no seats for them yet. So I think that Road to Indy program is doing really well.
We're very pleased with that. It's a great development series. Indy Lights is dynamite racing, and it's close enough to IndyCar that we know guys who win lights are right there, like Herta and Pato. They're ready. And it's, by the way, that's another huge development, I think, with Harding, Steinbrenner, bringing those two young guys that are obviously dynamite racers into IndyCar full-time next year. That's terrific, and just the way you'd hope the system would work.
Well, it's doing what it was designed to do, and it's terrific. And I think, I understand at least 2 new teams coming in this year, so there could be 24, in IndyCar.
Well, we'll see. I'm not sure we're done counting yet.
Oh, well, good. Keep counting.
But the direction's right. We're adding. We don't have the traditional guys like Roger doing less. We've got new blood coming in. We've got new drivers coming in. Not just these guys that have distinguished themselves as champions at lights, but as I mentioned in passing a second ago, yet another Formula One driver coming over. Doesn't hurt us to now go to Sweden and talk about television that he's here. So we just feel like, touch wood, we're kind of clicking on all cylinders.
What do you see in the future of IndyCar? What is there that hasn't quite come together yet that you'd like to see?
So I think we're doing sort of. I like what's happening in every part. The racing, the tracks, the promotion. The events are getting stronger. Their attendance is getting better. Our television with NBC in the States will get better. I think our relationships and therefore the way we're conveyed to fans all over the world will get better. In all ways, I feel very good about it. Never satisfied. If we have an issue right now, it's that we need more voice, more attention in the U.S. marketplace. And when you look at whatever's on the TV over there, which is some college basketball, I'm sure, you think about the major leagues, you think about everything else, non-motorsports, there's a lot of competition. And so for us to get our story out, for our drivers to be better known, for our television audiences and our crowds to be better, we just have to continue to have more successful fan engagement, to get more people watching, and just make ourselves louder, if you will, in the marketplace. So I don't think there's any big silver bullet changes. I think we do what we're doing. And and we just got to have more of it all the time so that we're more conspicuous to American sports fans.
What has surprised you the most? I mean, you put on. Did you play football?
Well, a long, long time ago.
Well, yeah, I understand. So did I. But you headed up and put on probably the best Super Bowl that's ever been had. And, of course, Mother Nature liked you enough that she said, we'll stay away. We'll let them have it.
That was Allison. She prayed every day.
Good. What has surprised you the most? Now, you are the president and CEO of Hulman and Company, which owns, among other things that people would know, is Clabber Girl, the #1 baking powder in the world. Do you spend time down there making recipes? Plus, you've got all these other things you have to look at. Do you spend most of your time in racing, or are you able to spread it out and say, I can't go to Sweden because I got to be down at Clabber Girl. We're making something new.
No, so Clabber Girl is a fabulous company and so important to Terre Haute, and it's really a great business. It's 1899 that business was founded. Think about that. It's just amazing. I don't spend 5% of my time on Clabber Girl. We had a great president, Gary Morris, who runs that company and has for many years. He reports into Indianapolis through Cindy Lucchese, who's our chief administrative officer. She's dynamite. So my time is all about racing and IMS Productions, most of which is about racing. So I'm pretty focused. What surprised me the most, I guess, I've talked about this with you before. The first thing coming from a professional tennis background, which is not all that analogous, I just love our drivers. I mean, there are talented guys, people, but they just love the sport and they just want to help and they want to build it. And they're great at doing that, not just on the track, but off the track. We can send them to a elementary school, to Wall Street banker reception, to a hospital, anything in between. They want to go. They're fabulous ambassadors for the sport, and they're just great partners. So that I don't know. I wouldn't trade any sports athletes for the IndyCar drivers in the paddock. They're just dynamite. The other thing that I have to say I didn't understand before was how when you do make technical changes in the car, you know what you hope to accomplish, but you can have unexpected consequences, right? So, I'll be frank. When we introduced aero competition not too many years ago, it didn't work out exactly as we had in mind. It made all kinds of sense, right, on paper that Honda and Chevy can compete, cars will look a little bit different, hopefully we can gain in performance, et cetera, but it didn't really work out as well as we'd liked. And I don't think we spent a lot of time as an organization saying, well, what if this doesn't go quite right? What could go wrong? So when we introduced the Universal kit this year, there was a lot more conversation around, okay, boys, I know this is going to be perfect, but what could go wrong? And let's plan for it. And happily, there was almost none of that. It really worked out incredibly well. But I guess I just am more careful in what I hear about ideas for technical changes to make sure that we've really thought about the possibilities from every angle. Because our racing is fantastic. We don't want to, you got to look at risk and reward and unintended consequences, and that was probably, I knew about strings and balls and court surfaces, but it's the most different thing in racing.
And I remember you saying that when you were with tennis, when you'd want a certain player to appear someplace, there was always somebody saying, well, how much for that? Which in this case, you don't have that problem. They're willing to go.
They love it. I think they're underpaid. I wish our drivers were much better paid. I wish none of them had to bring some dough to get the ride if they're the best drivers. And those are things that will improve over time. But I've already said it. I just think these guys are hungry, constructive, articulate, not to mention talented athletes and competitors, and it's a joy being around them.
Well, you saw the Born Racer on Scott, and they spent time with Jim Leo and Scott working out. And the if you go up there, I'm sure you've been there, you look on the wall at the record for all these different, he's got almost all of them. So you never see him very seldom. He might be sweaty when he gets out of a car, where other guys are sitting on the wall going, phew. He's not. He spends a lot of time.
I love AJ, but I don't know that he had the same fitness regimen that today's drivers do. These guys are serious athletes, and a big part of it is all that hard work and sweat put in every day in between races. And it's not just Scott, although Scott's an unbelievable example. I mean, if we could put up a before and after on Joseph Newgarden, turn into this scrawny kid, right? A stud is not really a word I would use here, but he is cut and ripped, and all of them are on the same kind of program because they think anything that gives them a little bit better edge is important, and they're doggedly determined to seek it.
And they spend the time and the effort. And I'm going to go back to what you said. You had dinner with Mr. Rossi last night. I think that's a guy, you want an American doing something. He's the one that's going to do it. I think he's just there and is going to do it. I think, and as you said, he came from Formula One. It was when he first got here. First time I had him on the program, I almost had to kick him to get him to answer, but not anymore. He's very outgoing. When people get to hear and know him, they'll love him. He's a great guy.
Passionate, full of ideas, really smart, and he is totally focused on IndyCar. I mean, yes. He's just a great asset for the sport.
And he comes here all the way from Nevada, California. Where did I say Colorado? Where did I
Somewhere over there.
Yeah, it's in the west someplace. Well, we've gone a little bit over, and your dinner's probably waiting for you, so I will say thanks for your time. I appreciate you coming, and I won't call you for another 6-8 months.
Weeks.
No, because I know what I'm going to hear.
Thank you all for being here, and thanks for being great fans.
The man, Mark Miles. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it. Uh-oh, you're going to get attacked. Stand by. You're going to get attacked. My next guest, I hope, is here. Oh, yeah, there he is. I want to remind you that when you're looking for a car, a Chevrolet, you got to go to Sam Pierce Chevrolet in Daleville, Indiana, where you'll find that the best prices for the Chevrolet in the country, and Daleville is certainly in the country. And you will also see why it is that Sam Pierce is always rated at the top of customer satisfaction. When you buy a car from Sam, he doesn't stand behind you, he stands alongside you. Take I-69 North to exit 234, go east 1 mile, and you won't miss them. That's Sam Pierce Chevrolet. And you want to find out what's exciting about these guys and gals that drive Indy cars, and you've got to take a ride in the Indy Racing Experience 2-seater. It is unmatched in anything. So you can just call 317-243-7171, ask for Shonda, and book a date, or you can go online at indyracingexperience.com, find out when they start racing or running next year. And if you go online and book a date, in the promo box, put SJ1, you get a 50% discount, or mention SJ1 to Shonda when you call. You'll love it. I just had the gal was here 2 weeks ago. She took a ride, and she's absolutely thrilled. Loved it. Wants to do it again. Her husband said, wait a minute now. Are you ready to get insurance for your home, your car, or your commercial property? Do what I've done and what a lot of people have done. They've gone to VP Insurance, located at 5004 West 16th Street in beautiful town of Speedway. Talk to Mike Pardee. He'll give you a great price for great coverage, and it'll be less money. Give him a call. The office number is 317-248-0070. And if you have yet to join the IndyCar Nation, don't hesitate. Join it. It's a great operation. Lots of perks come with it. And who knows, you might be drawn to get a 2-seater ride, a pace car ride, or you could actually be waving the green flag for the start of practice. So go to IndyCarNation.com, and in the promo box put Don K, D-O-N-K-A-Y 15, and you get a 15% discount on Champion and Legend membership. Join it. It's great. And if you haven't signed up yet for Trackside Online, you got to do that. All the information that's put out for this team, the PR, what's going on, everything that's going on is there. All you can do is go to TracksideOnline.com and subscribe. It's only about $20-some a year. Not expensive at all, so sign up and get it. My next guest is a gentleman that I always enjoy having here. We usually kibitz in Japanese because he spent some time in Japan, as I did. Konbanwa.
Konbanwa.
And he is the chief in charge of media and marketing for IndyCar and the IMS, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Unfortunately, we don't get enough snow here, I guess, and I've been told he's heading east. At the end of the year, he'll be leaving, and I'm very sorry to see that happen, but he was kind enough to come by here tonight, so I'm going to drill him a little bit about some things, whatever. Please welcome, what's your name again, kid? I forgot your name again.
Don K.
C.J. O'Donnell. When you took the job, you brought a lot of experience in marketing and communication with you. When you came here, did you find that what you had done with Fiat and so forth and over in Japan when you were over there working, that you brought some of the stuff that you did there worked here?
Yeah, it definitely did. There are disciplines to marketing and public relations that apply whether you're directly in the automotive business or in motorsport or anything else. And I think those disciplines actually translated pretty well. I think the numbers kind of prove that. And
you are a former driver. In fact, a couple of years ago, I saw you in a suit and you were driving out at the Dan Weldon Memorial event. You were karting, and you've driven. I
still try to hack around when they let me get behind the wheel.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Huh. It doesn't get out of your blood, does it?
No, it never does. In fact, I probably wouldn't be even sitting here now if it ever got out of my blood. Yeah.
I see.
When you're 18 years old and looking at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as Mecca, you somehow find a way to get there.
And you did. It just wasn't in a car.
Extra years, right?
And you got here, but you weren't in a car.
And I wasn't in a car, right? Yeah.
However, you were able to get into a few, I'm sure. You're leaving at the end of the year, and you have assembled, in my mind, because I deal with a lot of them quite frequently, with an outstanding media staff. I mean, you've really got some people, you've got some excellent writers that tell the story of IndyCar and IMS. And where are you headed that would be better than this?
Well, we're going to Annapolis, Maryland. That's the plan.
I know.
Yeah. So you might find me next with a sailboat and a rum drink in my hand. I don't know.
Jeez. Is there a race team there you're going to work? Is there a race series that's headquartered there?
No, we're stepping out of the racing world for at least a little while.
I see. And a glass of rum.
Yeah, a glass of rum and a sailboat might be in the future.
Oh, boy. In your mind, Phoenix went away, and Phoenix seemed to struggle to get a crowd. And my concern was, and that's only because I knew a bunch of people down there, they told me, if you didn't say there was a race, we didn't hear anything. What does IndyCar do to kind of kick a promoter in the butt to get them going? You don't have to kick Gateway. They've got that figured out. And they do a great job. But how is it that a couple of these places in particular don't seem to be doing what, in my mind, they should be? And what does IndyCar do to help or promote or push or whatever?
Yeah, we've had a bit of a run with a few tracks that haven't had the promotional, expertise or motivation in some cases to really make some of our events as successful as they've been in other locations. And, I think there's a pattern starting to form where if we're coming in 2 weeks, 3 weeks after a NASCAR race or 2 weeks, 3 weeks before a NASCAR race, that track, especially if it's an ISC track, has a tendency to be focused someplace a little different. So we have to make sure we're really working with people that care about the sport, are motivated to promote the sport, and do their very best to make sure that we succeed.
Do you oversee what they do there as they're leading up to an event? I mean, some of them could start now. It's a Gateway. They haven't let it slide. What's it? The name of the promoter, the sponsor? They don't. They don't dawdle. What bothered me is I got a call from a friend of mine in New York who is a state police officer, and he listens to the radio a lot. Both one squawking in the radio, and he called me one day. He said, "I just heard an ad from a major station in New Jersey." I said, "Oh yeah, for IndyCar? No. For Pocono? No. It was for Formula E." "Really?" So I sent a message to the young lady that oversees some of that stuff, and I said, "Here's what happened." She said, "Oh, don't worry. We're coming in. They're running this weekend," which I didn't realize.
Yeah.
"Our stuff will start." "Jeff, did it ever start?" "No." Never heard a peep. And he and I talked. I got an idea what I think would work. There's, about 7 million people that go between Penn Station and Grand Central Station every day. Put a big flat screen up there showing highlights, and it doesn't matter what year because most people wouldn't recognize the car anyway, unless they're roadsters. And get a couple of gals in a show car and pass out the schedule. When you get 7 million people, you got to get 30,000. Say, hey, that's an idea. Let's go. Does that ever come up on the table?
Yeah, we worked with Pocono a couple different ways. I mean, they have the opportunity to pull from North Jersey, the general Manhattan, external Manhattan markets, certainly from Philadelphia, parts of upstate New York. They actually reach up to Syracuse and some places like that. So there's great opportunity for them to pull multiple locations, and I know the market really well because I grew up there. Yeah. I grew up 20 minutes from the track. So if they really, I think, put their back into it, they could probably do a slightly better job. And it's a conversation we have. It's a discussion that needs to continue. The track's doing better. I know they had increased attendance last year, and we just have to keep motivating them to do what they need to do. It's not the case, like you said, in Gateway. It's not the case in St. Pete or Road America, or for that matter, in a lot of other places. But we have to press these guys to do the work.
Do you have some kind of program that says if you do this and promote, we'll reduce your sanctioning fee, but if we have to do it and get in, you're going to pay the full, and then we'll help you. We'll give you ideas. We'll suggest things that you can do that we know will work.
Well, we always suggest things that they can do to help things work, and we work with them. We have a cooperative marketing program where we actually put some of our own money in to a pot. If they match that, we work together on how to spend it and make it as effective as possible to sell tickets. So that's a program that we've really tried to press. It's gotten us into the conversation with them and financially committed to working with them in a way to elevate their performance. But it hasn't, some people don't even use it, to be honest with you. So we really have to continue to make sure that we're engaged with those folks, that they understand what's working at other tracks, that they're taking advantage of that knowledge and our expertise to try to develop a better game. The bottom line is they pay us a flat rate. We come up, we put on the show, and if they want to push hard, they can push hard. So.
Yeah, but the thing is, you don't like to go in and you look up in the grandstand and say,
I hate it.
Where'd everybody go?
Yeah, no, it's.
And there's no reason for it. It's the best racing in the world, and if Formula E can draw some decent crowds for what they do, there's no reason IndyCar shouldn't be able to.
But let's keep this a little bit in perspective too. You're talking about Phoenix. You're talking about one or two places. The majority of the events right now are strong. They're growing. They've been successful. So, the two weakest, I think, events we had last year are not on the schedule right now. So we're going to do just fine.
Yes, but you and I have discussed this, and you have chastised me rather loudly. When I said, you said, look at St. Pete. Well, it's March, for Pete's sake. People are there. And since you blocked the streets in town, they might as well come to the race. They can walk there. Road America, if they ran ponies backwards, they would draw a crowd.
I heard that line when you were talking to Mark.
I know you did. And the same with Mid-Ohio. Because it's a beautiful place to go, as is Road America, so people will go there and watch. I know guys that used to lay in the back their motorhome at Mid-Ohio in the Corkscrew or whatever it was, and they lay in the bunk and look out the back window and watch the cars go. I thought that was kind of dumb, but that's what they do. And I got to think,
But then you can add in Toronto and Portland, and keep going down the line. They're all.
Well, Toronto has drawn always. They love racing up there, and that's not a thing where you say, it's everybody goes to Toronto. No, they don't. But people up there come to see the race. There's no question about that. It's always done well. And even when you move the date for somebody else's, whatever it was, it's still got a good crowd. So that's not the problem. But
the number of events that are strong and growing is far greater than the ones we want to pick on, actually.
Well, as Mark had indicated, there is a chance that there'll be one or two added in the next year or so. And I think a lot of people, myself included, like ovals. It's close racing. It's fast.
We got a lot of applause out there.
Yeah, and that's what IndyCar was. When I came here in 1962 or something, that was it. They ran a road course over at IRP at one time, and it did okay. But that's IndyCar racing. That's what made A.J. Foyt and Al Unser, although Al did run some road courses. And I hope to see something. I mean, I feel sorry for Ed Carpenter. He's only got 5 races. What's he going to do? He's on a cruise now. Well, it's not that busy. Let's go on a cruise. I'm only joking. I don't know what he's doing. I made that up. But I would like to see personally, and I think a lot of people, Kentucky's a great track. Kansas City's not that far away, and it seems to me the majority of the fan base is in Midwest.
Yeah, the core is here. There's no doubt about it.
So you need to go there. You know, the strange thing about Chicago, they sold season tickets. IndyCar tried to buy tickets from season ticket holders for the IndyCar race. They wouldn't sell them, but they didn't go. Now, why wouldn't they sell them? That didn't make any sense to me. But Terry said, we've been trying to buy them. They won't sell them to us. So are you happy with the NBC contract coming up?
Yeah, and I think the part that's the most encouraging at this point is that they're really working more closely with us, more so than ever before, in planning for next year to make it successful. Greatest opportunity for viewership growth, and I think everybody knows this in the room, is the Indy 500. And some of the things they're already laying in place for next season, for the 103rd running of the race, are absolutely fantastic. They have a promotional plan. They call it the championship season. You probably know it because it includes things like the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, the NHL playoffs, and the Stanley Cup championship, a number of major events, the Tour de France. And it's an outstanding way to really make big championships even bigger. And that's what they're going to do for us. We're going to be part of that next year, and we're really encouraged by the amount of promotion and weight they're going to put behind it, much more than what we saw with ABC.
And I am very disappointed because I understand that the streaming now is going to be called the Gold something or other, and you got to buy it.
Yes. That's going to be a little bit of change for some people next year.
You're not kidding. I'm one of them.
Yeah.
I'm cheap. I'm poor. I mean, I got to borrow money from Howdy just to have a White Castle or two.
Well,
I'm in trouble.
It's a good package. NBC Sports Gold is what he's referring to. Will be really the way to watch practice, qualifying, and races on demand when you want to look to it. So IndyCar.com will no longer be delivering that content. You'll have to go to NBCSports.com and then go to the Gold. Right, cha-ching is really the thing. Now you're right. It's exactly the purpose here is to try to generate more money off of content so we can invest in the sport and grow the sport. And Mark could be able to discuss that as well as anybody. But we need that fuel to run the engine, and that engine's going to make us stronger. It's going to give us more money to promote so we can continue to grow. And NBC stepped up and really made that work. So.
I have now hit the senior citizen status, and I traveled for years to almost every race. No matter where it was, what weekend, it didn't matter. I went. It's not as easy anymore. So I looked forward to listening through the Viking and Mark Janes and his little band of merry men watch practice and qualifying. Now I got to buy it. So now I'm going to have to get a job so I can pay for it. And I'm going to get the lowdown. I don't know, the former European professional basketball player that's now in charge of all that, Stephen Starks, said my phone number and name are on his computer screen. He said, trust me, when everything's signed, sealed, and delivered, I'm going to call you. So we're going to find out what everything is involved. But I think the important thing in my mind is that I think 8 of the events are going to be on network television. So the people won't have to go look and say, I had more people. Where's NBC Sports Network? I don't know. Look in your area. I know where it is here. And although the viewership was okay, I think being on the network will make a big difference.
Network's always the place to be, and it's because of the access and the ability for everybody to reach, find us on NBC so readily. There'll be 2 things that really work well. One, more broadcast television, and you already said it. There's 2 more races this season than there were last year on broadcast. And then the promotion that comes with it. So you got promotion, you've got access to larger audiences because of broadcast television, and you got continuity, which is the third step. It's always NBC. People won't get lost trying to jump between ABC, ESPN, NBCSN, or anybody else. So that continuity is really important as well.
And something that has disturbed me, even with NBC Sports Network, they put crawls on about baseball and all this. But nobody ever said, stay tuned, here comes IndyCar. There was nothing, and I got to think that NBC now wants viewers, and they're going to do everything they can to get them, so why not put a crawl, even if they're doing soccer, on NBC Sports Network channel, wherever, we'll have the race.
Yeah, you'll see more promotion on their other major events, pushing towards IndyCar, and a lot of cooperation between NASCAR and IndyCar to share audiences and grow both sports, which is particularly helpful. If we come in on the back of a NASCAR race, we have a bigger audience because it's a motorsport fan that wants to stay with NBC or NBCSN and watch more racing. And I think we all would recognize that the quality of our product, once they start to watch it, well, we keep them. And those eyeballs are going to continue to grow, and I think we're going to convert more NASCAR fans into IndyCar fans as the season goes along.
You weren't here when they ran at Richmond, were you?
No, but I've seen races from Richmond.
Yes, but when they first started, the main grandstand was fairly full because that's a NASCAR country.
Yeah.
And you can't believe, one of the things that I used to do, and I'm brilliant at, is just wander around and talk to people. What do you think? Geez, are these cars fast? You mean they're faster than a stock car? Oh, my God, yes. And as every year we went there, the crowd started coming through turns 1 and 2 and through 4 and 3, getting closer to us. As I told Mark, and I've said this a couple of times, I would be up with Mark Janes, and he's calling what he's watching, and I'm watching behind to see if something happened. So we worked together, and the last time we were there, we said, if this keeps up, we're going to have to find somewhere else to go, because the crowd was coming closer. It wasn't that close, but it was getting there, and people really enjoyed it. It went away. I'm hoping that somebody's looking at that and saying, no, because I've heard they would consider coming back. Because it was a great race. I mean, in the night, dark, shining, oh, boy. And they go fast.
I think your point about the difference in speed is what really makes us successful at some of these places, or will make us successful. I actually had a presentation at Texas Motor Speedway about a week ago, and just to make the point, because I stood up in front of mostly NASCAR promoters and sponsors and said, hey, we're the fastest and most competitive form of motorsport in the country today, and they all just leaned back in their chair. And then I put up Scott Dixon's track record at 227 miles an hour, compared it to Harvick's track record. It was a 29-mile-an-hour difference. I said, hey, you want to argue with me now? And the room tried, but I think the data really proved I was right.
Was Eddie there?
Yeah, he didn't like what I was doing. But we had to make the point.
Well, and there's no doubt about that. And I don't understand why ISC or what the NASCAR isn't, since they own Chicago, they own Kentucky, or I think Bruton Smith owns Kentucky, to get them IndyCar to come back, because they were drawing good crowds and growing, and all of a sudden they went away.
Well, I really enjoyed working with the SMI facilities. He's SMI, Sonoma was SMI. The staff that they typically have is usually superior to a lot of places we go to, and I've enjoyed those relationships. And even though I gave Eddie a bit of a hard time when I was down there, it's been a good long-standing relationship that we're glad is continuing next year.
Yes, so am I, because and I remember having a conversation one day, and he was mad as hell because Jerry Jones scheduled an exhibition game against him. He said, he drew 93,000. Jerry didn't get anywhere near that. So he was just proud of himself for having done that, and he knows how to promote. You weren't here when, and I've told this before, when Danica and Dan Weldon had a little fisticuff at the Speedway, and she slapped him with a glove or a rag or something. The next day, big billboards in Dallas, round 2 is here, and they showed a picture of the two of them. I mean, the guy knows how to promote. There's no question.
No, he's the showman. He actually, the same day that I made the presentation in Texas last week, he got up and gave a presentation about promotion and got a chance to sort of talk candidly about his career. And I think the theme of it was elephants, monkeys, and fire were the 3 elements that made him most successful because of the crazy things he used to do to promote races. And
he used to have Robbie Knievel come down do there, and he'd do a jump on the main straightaway every year. I got to talk to him a number of times.
Yep. He taught me this last week that you can't paint an elephant pink. That's the crazy kind of stuff he's tried to do in the past. So.
He's done all kinds of things. And it's fun because you never know what might happen when you go down to see an Eddie Gossage promotion. The only thing that disturbs me is when they left Charlotte, Eddie told me one day, I said, how come IndyCar's not back there? He said, Humpy Wheeler is the reason. He doesn't want them. He said, but if I was there, you'd be back. Well, Humpy's gone. How come IndyCar's not back in Charlotte? Because it was starting to grow pretty well.
That isn't a conversation that I think we've ever had. At least not in the 5 years I've been here.
Oh, well, I'll have to talk to Mr.
Now that they
Studd.
have a Roval, though, we might be able to give it a look.
Well, yeah, and it was starting to grow, get a good crowd because people down there said, geez, these cars are a lot faster than NASCAR. Really? What made you say that? And I know that IndyCar, they ran there a number of years ago and tested at Daytona, and the cars were so fast, they said, this is not a good place, it's too quick. But who knows? Everything can be adjusted and changed in another year when the engines gain another 100 horsepower. I think the Speedway speed record could be shattered along with a lot of them. So that'll be kind of interesting what happens. And the other good thing about it is all of the effort and time and money that's been spent in making the cars safe, drivers they're not concerned about. That's the last thing they think about it. Because, the wrecks that have been had, guys walk away, sometimes they're limp, but they get out and go.
Safety has been obviously part of Mark's focus the last couple of years, as well as Jay's, and the strides we've made, they're demonstrated in the track every weekend. We see some pretty horrific crashes, and guys get up, walk away, and go off to race the next day.
And if you saw Born Racer, they showed that Scott's wreck, and I was told that he came within 3 inches of, had it hit somewhat, or 3 inches different, it might have been a different story, but as bad as that was, he got out of the car. Amazing.
Did you like Born Racer?
Yes.
Has anybody seen Born Racer?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's good. I borrowed one from a friend of mine who was kind enough to loan it to me to watch it, and it was good. It was well done, I thought, and I know Emma had said we really thought and talked long and hard about allowing them in our life 24 hours a day, and I thought it was done very well, class. And if you haven't seen it, you got to go see it. And you can buy it on Amazon. It's
you can
not that big a deal.
Download it and watch it at home, or you can buy the DVD, and I recommend you do. That was really fortuitous. I mean, we worked on that project with Ganassi and Scott and Emma for over a year. The producer of that film also did the film on McLaren. If you've seen the documentary on Bruce McLaren, which is outstanding as well. Once that was produced, they launched here around the Indy 500, and we got to know him very well. And that led to a relationship that, ended up producing a movie. But I couldn't have thought of a better way to end the season. Scott, passes Michael, is now third overall. In career wins, he has his 300th start. He gets his 5th championship, and then a few days later, we launch a documentary film to highlight his career. I thought that was just a great year for him and good for the sport.
And I have the McLaren movie. I have that one as well.
Yeah.
I got to say, I'm sorry. Was shocked to hear that you're leaving. I'm sorry to hear that you are leaving. I'm assuming you're not going out there to work in a Burger King or a White Castle.
I promised my wife and my family we're just going to take a couple months and do nothing. That's the first thing on my list of things to do.
Well, it should be. You spent a lot of time and effort, and as I said, start this off, I think you have assembled an outstanding media crew, and they keep people apprised. And it's amazing to me that when I'll talk about an article, where do you find that? Where do I always tell you? IMS.com or IndyCar. It's there. IndyCar.
Right, it's always there.
The articles are there. Look, and I shouldn't say that because I forget to look at stuff that I know where to get it, and I don't think of it at the time. So.
No, I'm really pleased. When I got here, there wasn't much of a staff. I mean, a few people were let go. I was kind of alone for the first couple of weeks, it seemed, and it was really like 5 weeks almost to the day that I showed up here in Indianapolis, and we've managed to recruit really good people that I know are going to work very hard once I take off and continue the momentum that we've seen in recent years. And as Mark said earlier, everything's sort of pointing in the right direction, and I know those folks are going to work just as hard as they have in the last, years and days to make IndyCar super successful in the months ahead.
Has your replacement been spotted yet?
I've got a stack of resumes on my desk, and Mark and I are talking about possible candidates right now.
Listen, when you see mine, just over.
Are you in there?
No.
No? All right.
I wouldn't insult you to that degree. I've
How
enjoyed.
do you feel about 23 weekends at a racetrack?
Well,
Sound good?
Yeah, but
There you go.
when I went, I had to pay for it. When you go, you don't have to pay for it.
No, they pay me for it. It's the
That's
best part.
the other part.
That's right.
Good. I have enjoyed talking with you, and between you and Mark, I will send an email with a comment, and I may send negative, but I always send positive to you when I think you guys have done something that made sense and the fans like, and this gentleman will respond. It's not you sometimes as quick. Mark has answered me sometimes at 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. What in the world's he doing up? I was looking for an answer the next day.
He doesn't sleep.
I guess not. And your assistant is the same way. She responded when I contacted you, and she responded. I sent her a note about some dates, and at 10:30, I think it was 11 o'clock on a Sunday, she answered me. Hey, you can answer me on Monday morning. That's fine. She said, when I get an email, I answer it.
She does. She's good.
She did a good job for you, and thank her again for making this happen.
Well, I've enjoyed your emails, the good ones and the bad ones, actually.
I don't send bad ones sometimes, except I think
Constructive criticism. Look
Okay,
at it that
well,
way.
that sounds pretty good. I didn't know I could do that.
Yeah, you did.
Well, we look forward to maybe running into you somewhere on the East Coast. Maybe we'll end up at Pocono and see you wandering around saying hello.
I can't get too far away from this. You'll see me at a couple tracks next year.
And I understand the Dan Weldon Pro-Am is supposed to come back next May, in early May. Are you going to be here for that?
If I get invited, yeah. Yeah, I told you, if they put me behind the wheel of anything, I'll drive it.
Okay.
Any day.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming out. I'm sorry to see you go, but I know whatever you're going to do is going to be successful. Thanks for taking the time to come here 4 or 5 times. Enjoyed talking to you. And you never hemmed and hawed with an answer. If I ask you, you answered. That's all I can ask.
Well, no, I've enjoyed my time with everybody here, and I'm going to miss McGilvery's. I'm going to miss these conversations, and I'm looking forward to getting back at some point and see you all again. So thank you.
C.J. O'Donnell, thanks for being here. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. Next week, I had an idea, and Mark kind of touched on it while we were here, and I'm trying to put something together, so I'm not sure exactly which direction I'm going to go. But if you go to autosportradio.com and click on the Autosport Show tab, you'll find out. If you have my Facebook page or my Autosport Show page, you can find the guests there. Or you can email me and I'll tell you, or get on my email list. But we'll be here next week. Same time, same place. Thanks, everybody, for listening, watching. Kenny, I hope you had a great birthday party today. And a gentleman is here from Phoenix who said that he got hooked on racing with the young lady that got him headed in the direction. He watches every week from Phoenix. Incidentally, he's laying out in the sun when he's doing it, and we're here in the rain sometimes. We welcome him here with us tonight. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Don't forget, the 17th at the Grand King Shops, you want to see Gary Irvin. And I mean, when you see him, you ask him, how's a $6 million man? You got to hear that story. It's funny. It's a great story. And on the 7th of December, they're having the Vintage Indy Registry guy with some giveaways, and Haggerty Insurance is underwriting it. There'll be food there and some cocktails, so you want to be there, and it's free. Just come on down and mingle. There'll be drivers. There'll be all kinds of fun. When Bill and Fluffy put a program together, they put everything into it, so you want to be there. Till next week, Don Kay saying thanks for being here. Good night. Oh, by the way, the Christmas gift and hobby show starts tomorrow. I have, I think, 3 pair of tickets. If anybody's interested, come on up and see me. I've got some tickets. The show starts tomorrow. It runs from tomorrow through the 11th. So if you would like to go, I got free tickets. Come and see me.